Believe it or not, a common question that I get asked is, Scott, what do I do on days that I don't want to work? This is an important question. I'm Scott Sylvan Bell, coming live for HVAC technician sales secrets on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. Now, here's the thing. I don't just get this question from technicians. I also get it from salespeople. So it's not just a heating and air industry issue. It is a salesperson issue. It's an entrepreneur issue. So I put together five things you need to know about what to do on days that you don't want to work. And first, what I want you to do is recognize that this is normal. I go through this too. I do. There's days that I wake up and I'm like, man, it's 4:30 in the morning. I don't want to do this, but I've made promises to myself. I don't want to do this, but I've got issues. And about 90% of the time, I get up and do what needs to be done. There are days that I suck at it. There are days that I struggle with it. I, Scott Bell, I'm not perfect. But you got to know that there is a downside to this. And here's the downside. That once you go down this process of I'm going to call it quits for the day and I'm going to take my marbles and go home, it gets easier every time. It's like giving up on a client, like difficult clients. Like every time you give up on a difficult client, it gets easier the next time. So it should be done under very specific circumstances. In my view, I'm not a doctor, therapist, attorney, or marriage counselor. Those are things I'm not good at, right? Number two, you could be mad and do the dishes. Shout out to Dr. Kevin Hogan, my good friend. We were having a conversation a couple months ago when I was at his house and I was interviewing him. And he said, Scott, is it possible for you to be mad and do the dishes at the same time? And I said, yeah. And he says, you know, there's days where you just got to work through the emotions that you have and realize that you could be mad and do the dishes. You can be having a bad day and still do the work. You could be frustrated and still do the work. You could be angry and still do the work. You could be lonely and still do the work. Yes, salespeople get lonely. They do, right? Like I have these conversations sometimes with salespeople like, Scott, you can't say that. I'm like, why not? It happens. It's real life. Like, what do you want me to gloss over it? This is why you should join HVAC Tech Secrets. I'll give you the goods, not in the Facebook group, not in the YouTube channel. Number three, look to the end of the day. Like there's times where even for me, I have to break the day down. Like, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got 2 hours to get things done. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've got 2 more hours to get things done. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I have lunch in 2 hours. You can break your sales call, your appointment into quarters. You can break it into smaller pieces. Like it would be crazy to try to get 20 pieces out of it. It'd be crazy. Like the max that I would break a sales call into is 10 parts. Like, but if you could break it into quarters, like it's easier to celebrate a 25% win than it is to celebrate a 10% win. So quarters, I'm going to say, okay, you want to do tenths? Do some tenths. I mean, I've had days where I've struggled to get out of bed. I've had days where I've struggled to get through sales calls. I've had days where I've struggled just like you. Okay. If you can make it to the end of the quarter, fantastic. Get to the next call, make it to the end of the next, it's inch by inch. I think the saying's inch by inch, life's a cinch. There's days, I'm going to tell you, there's days that I got to fight inch by inch. I look at there's a couple of anniversaries that I struggle with, and one of them is the day my dad died, right? Like for me, that day, like I want to get through the day, but there's times that I struggle through it. I miss my dad. I miss my pops. Number 4, call help. Get your accountability buddy on the line. What's up, accountability buddy? I'm struggling today. Let them get fired up. You can call a friend. You can call a family member. In this area, I would also say, like, what are you listening to that's motivational? Are you listening to a bunch of garbage? Are you talking to people that are tearing you down? Be aware that, like, this can go both ways. If you're the person who's constantly taking the phone call and everybody's dumping on you, I've got a problem, I've got an issue, eventually that wears you down. Eventually that will get to you. So sometimes the antecedent or the opposite of this is don't take phone calls from people who are tearing you down. Significant other, family member, boss, coworker. There are coworkers out there, I promise you, this has happened to me, that their phone call to you is to dump all their problems and go, here, you hold all my trash. And then they walk away happy and free, and then you struggle. So phone calls, think about it, goes both ways. I can make a phone call out or I can take a phone call in. Who are you talking to? And who should you not be talking to? Right? Who should you be talking to? Who should you not be talking to? Number 5, work towards a small reward. Small, right? Like there's days for me, a small reward may be something that's on my Amazon wish list that's $5 or $10. A small reward for me may be a ribeye at the end of the day. A small reward for me may be a New York strip at the end of the day. A small reward for me could be thick cut bacon. Oh, thick cut bacon is the best, right? Thick cut bacon. A small reward for me may be a dessert. But the mistake is like crazy dopamine rush. I'm going to go out and buy a Rolex. I'm going to go out and buy a Ferrari. I'm going to go buy plane tickets and live in a glass bottom hut for 10 days in Tahiti, which sounds fantastic. Don't get me wrong. All those things on the list sound crazy amazing. But like if you go too far in that dopamine rush, it ends up hurting you. And then bonus number six, real deal. If you're struggling, get some help. Like there's nothing wrong with seeing a doctor, a therapist, somebody who can help you with whatever struggles that you're facing. You know, me included, me included, I'll double, triple, quadruple stamp this. I go through my own personal problems. I have my own issues. I have my own worries. I am not Superman, right? I don't pretend to be some superhero. I've got problems too. Whatever emotions you go through, I live through them as well. There's days that I'm happy. There's days that I'm just like through the moon. There's days that I'm sad. There's days that, you know, I face my own struggles. And so here's the thing. If you need help, there's nothing wrong with seeking qualified help. There's not, right? Like if one of my best friends called me and said, "Hey, I'm seeing a therapist," I'd be like, "Right on, man. Good job." I would high five that all day long. If one of my brothers or sisters called me and said, "Hey, I'm seeking a therapist," I'd be like, high five all day long. Even if one of my enemies, I don't have very many of them. There's very few people on this planet that I dislike enough to call them an enemy, called me and said, "Hey, I'm getting therapy." I'm like, hope you work through whatever's going on in your life. Here's the thing. We all face struggles. There are days that it's tough to want to get stuff done, but you got to figure out your game plan. It's easier to figure it out when you're ahead than when you're behind. But if you're struggling today, like, just know I believe in you. And you know how I know that? Because you made it all the way through the video. You're looking for help. You're looking for reasons why. And that's a cool thing. You got one of two things to do from here. Find the subscribe or the follow button, click on it, and every time I send a video, you'll get an update that says HVAC technician sell secrets on another fantastic video. You should check it out, which you should. We'll see you soon.